The train to Tokyo was a steel serpent, slicing through the dusk of April 2024, its windows reflecting the fading light. Yuuichi Katagiri sat alone in a corner seat, his dark eyes scanning the empty carriage, his lips curled in a faint, predatory grin. At 17, he was a master of games, human games, where trust was a currency and betrayal a weapon. The Tomodachi Game, orchestrated by his own hand under Taizen Shiba's shadow, had honed him into a manipulator without peer, a monster who thrived on outwitting the desperate and the naive. Chiho, Sarage, Tenji Mikasa, Yutori Kokorogi, they had all fallen to his schemes, their secrets and loyalties twisted to serve his ends. But the Tomodachi Game was over, its debts settled, its players scattered. Yuichi needed a new stage, a new challenge. The letter from the advanced nurturing high school had arrived unannounced, sealed in black with a crest he didn't recognize. It offered a transfer, a special admission to an elite institution where Japan's brightest competed for supremacy. The terms were vague. Full scholarship, guaranteed graduation, a chance to shape the future. But the subtext was clear. Anshez was a battlefield, a place where cunning ruled. Yuichi's grin widened as he read, his fingers tracing the paper. A school designed for manipulation, for games of power. It was perfect. He accepted without hesitation, envisioning a playground where his skills would reign supreme, unaware of the shadow waiting to consume him. Kiyotaka Ayanokoji. As the train neared Tokyo, Yuichi's mind raced, crafting strategies, imagining rivals. He saw himself dismantling alliances, sowing distrust, climbing to the top of this new hierarchy. The Tomodachi Game had taught him to read people, to exploit their weaknesses, to win at any cost. Ants would be no different, or so he thought. He didn't know Ayanokoji, didn't know the White Room, didn't know the cold, unyielding mind that would unravel his every move. Yuuichi Katagiri stepped off the train, his bag slung over his shoulder, his grin unshaken, ready to conquer. He would regret it. Anch was a fortress of ambition, its campus a sprawl of sleek buildings and manicured lawns, its air thick with the tension of unspoken rivalries. Yuichi arrived on the first day of the spring semester, his black uniform crisp, his demeanor a calculated blend of charm and menace. The administration placed him in Class C, under Keikaru Raijan's volatile leadership, a choice Yuichi saw as an opportunity. Raijan was a predator, but predators could be tamed, manipulated, used. Yuichi's plan was simple: infiltrate Class C, exploit its fractures and rise. As its true master, then turn his sights on the other classes. His first day was a performance. He smiled at Mio Ibuki's suspicion, flirted with Shiho Manabe's click, and matched Revan's taunts with sly deflections, earning grudging respect. Class C was a powder keg. Loyalty to Ryan was fear-driven, not earned, and Yuichi thrived. In chaos, he planted seeds of doubt, whispering to Albert Yamada about Rian's recklessness, nudging Manabe toward petty betrayals. So within a week, he was a player, his name whispered in the halls, his grin a warning, but he noticed a shadow on the periphery. Kiyotaka Ayanokoji, a quiet Class D student, unremarkable yet omnipresent, his eyes cold and unreadable. Yuichi's first encounter with Ayanokoji was at the library, a sterile maze of books and flickering lights. Yuichi, researching Anna's point system, felt a presence and looked up to find Ayanokoji standing nearby, a book on game theory in hand. "You're the transfer," Ayanokoji said, his voice flat, his gaze piercing. Yuichi's grin didn't falter. "Yuuichi Katagiri," he replied, leaning back. "Heard your Class D's secret weapon." Ayanokoji's expression didn't change. "Rumors exaggerate," he said, then walked away. Yuichi watched him go, his instincts prickling. Ayanokoji was dangerous. Not loud like Ri, not flashy like Sakayanagi, but a predator, in a way Yuichi couldn't yet define. The first special exam was announced, a trust game where classes earned points by predicting their classmates. Votes on resource allocation, cooperate or betray. Yuichi saw it as a Tomodachi game in disguise, a chance to shine. He moved quickly, sowing distrust in Class C, convincing Manabe's clique to betray for personal gain, promising Ibuki protection if she allied with him. Ryan, sensing the shift, confronted him, but Yuichi's charm disarmed him, turning suspicion into a shaky alliance. Yuichi's plan was to fracture Class C's unity, then position himself as its savior, earning points and power. He didn't notice Ayanokoji watching from Class D, his silence a blade waiting to strike. The trust game unfolded in a lecture hall, its atmosphere electric with paranoia. Students voted anonymously via tablets, their choices determining class points. Yuichi's manipulations paid off. Betrayals outnumbering cooperation. But he positioned himself to gain favor with Ryan by predicting the chaos. Class D, under Suzune Horikita's leadership, outperformed expectations, their votes eerily unified. Yuichi, observing from the sidelines, caught Ayanokoji's gaze across the room, a fleeting moment, but enough to unsettle him. Those eyes weren't human. They were a void, calculating, knowing. The results were a shock. Class C gained points, but far fewer than expected, their betrayals cancelling out Yuichi's predictions. Class D surged ahead, their strategy flawless, Horikita credited as the mastermind. Yuichi's grin faltered as he realized something was wrong. His tablet pinged with a private message, anonymous but chilling. "You played well, Katagiri, but you're not the dealer here." The sender's identity was clear, Ayanokoji. Yuichi's blood ran cold. He'd been outplayed, his schemes anticipated, his moves counted before he'd made them. Ayanokoji's trap was revealed post-exam. He'd used Kei Karuizawa, his hidden pawn, to infiltrate Class C's rumor mill, feeding Yuichi false data about Manabe's loyalty. Yuichi's whispers to Ibuki had been intercepted, twisted to ensure Class C's collapse. Horikita's unity wasn't her doing, it was Ayanokoji's, his hand guiding Class D from the shadows. Yuichi confronted him in an empty classroom, his grin gone, his voice low. "You set me up," he said, fists clenched. Ayanokoji's response was a faint smile, infuriatingly calm. "You're good, Katagiri, but you rely on emotions." "I don't." Yuichi's pride screamed for a counter, but he had none. Ayanokoji had read him, dissected him, owned him. The second exam, a survival test on an island, was Yuichi's chance to strike back. He allied with Ryan, proposing a Tomodachi Game style scheme, sabotage Class D's resources, frame Horikita for theft, and force expulsions. Yuichi's charisma rallied Class C, his lies convincing even Ibuki, but Ayanokoji was ready. He'd anticipated the sabotage, using Kushida to plant doubts about Yuichi's loyalty in Ryan's mind. When Class C's plan failed, Ryan turned on Yuichi, his fist splitting Yuichi's lip in a jungle clearing. "You're done," Ryan snarled, but Yuichi's eyes flicked to Ayanokoji, watching from a distance, his expression unchanged. The realization hit. Ayanokoji hadn't just countered him, he'd orchestrated the betrayal, turning Yuichi into Class C's scapegoat. Yuichi's fall was swift. Class C ostracized him, his schemes exposed, his credibility shattered. Ryan, humiliated, banished him to the fringes, leaving him isolated. Yuichi's dorm became a prison, its bare walls closing in, his mirror reflecting a face he barely recognized, bruised, hollow, defeated. The Tomodachi Game had been his domain, but Anas was Ayanokoji's board, and Yuichi was a piece, not a player. He replayed every move, searching for the moment he'd lost control, but Ayanokoji's shadow was everywhere, every rumor, every vote, every glance. Ayanokoji approached him after the island exam, his voice soft but cutting. "Join me," he said, standing in the dorm's doorway, his silhouette framed by moonlight. "You're useful, Katagiri, but only if you follow." Yuichi's pride recoiled, his mind screaming rebellion, but his options were gone. Class C despised him, Class D was untouchable, and Ayanokoji's eyes promised consequences for refusal. Yuichi nodded, his grin a ghost, his heart heavy with regret. He'd come to Ange to conquer, but he'd become a puppet, his strings held by a monster colder than himself. Ayanokoji's use of Yuichi was surgical. He tasked him with manipulating Class B, targeting Hanami Ichinose's idealism to sow discord. Yuichi, once a master, now followed orders, his schemes scripted by Ayanokoji. He spread lies about Ichinose's past, forged evidence of her betrayal, and watched her class fracture, his heart sinking with each move. Ichinose's tearful confusion echoed Shiho's in the Tomodachi Game, a mirror of Yuichi's own cruelty, but now he felt no thrill, only shame. Ayanokoji's praise was cold, his faint smile a reminder of Yuichi's fall. Good work, he said, but the words were chains, binding Yuichi tighter. The third exam, a written test with hidden stakes, cemented Yuichi's role as Ayanokoji's tool. Ayanokoji used him to leak false answers to Class A, undermining Arasu Sakayanagi's strategies, while Yuichi's name took the blame. Sakayanagi's retaliation was swift. She exposed Yuichi's Tomodachi Game past to the school, branding him a psychopath and whispered rumors. Students avoided him, their eyes filled with fear or disgust. Even Ruin, once a rival, pitied him, his grin mocking. "You thought you could play here," he said, laughing. Yuichi's fists trembled, but he had no retort. Ayanokoji had stripped him bare. Yuichi's regret crystallized in a rooftop confrontation with Keikaru Izawa, Ayanokoji's loyal pawn. She cornered him, her voice sharp, her eyes blazing. "You're nothing to him," she said, her words cutting deeper than Rekin's fists. "He uses you just like he uses me, but I chose this. You didn't." Yuichi's grin faltered, his mind flashing to Tenji, to Shito, to the friends he'd manipulated and lost. He'd come to Ants to escape that regret, to prove he was untouchable, but Ayanokoji had turned his own game against him, making him a mirror of his past victims. He confronted Ayanokoji one last time, in the library where they'd first met. "Why me?" Yuichi asked, his voice raw, his grin gone. Ayanokoji's response was a blade. "Because you're like me, Katagiri, but you feel. That's your weakness." Yuichi's heart pounded, his mind raging, but he saw the truth. Ayanokoji's detachment, his white room, forged emptiness, was a fortress Yuichi couldn't breach. He'd played the Tomodachi Game with emotions, with trust, but Ayanokoji played with nothing, and nothing always won. Yuichi's final act was a desperate bid for freedom. A new special exam, a class swap where students could transfer classes, offered a chance to escape Ayanokoji. Script: Yuichi targeted Class B, leveraging Ichinose's fractured trust to secure a transfer. But Ayanokoji was steps ahead. He'd planted doubts about Yuichi's motives, ensuring Class B rejected him. The exam ended with Yuichi trapped in Class C, his reputation in ruins, his spirit broken. Ryan, amused, offered a truce, but Yuichi saw the pity in his eyes, a predator mourning a fallen rival. Yuichi sat in his dorm, the letter from Ants crumpled in his hand, its promises a lie. He'd come to conquer, to prove he was the ultimate manipulator, but Ants had devoured him. Ayanokoji's shadow loomed, not in presence, but in absence, Every failure, every loss bore his mark. Yuichi's grin returned, but it was hollow, a mask for the regret that consumed him. He'd played the game, but Ayanokoji had rewritten the rules, turning the predator into prey, the player into a puppet. The semester ended, Anja's halls buzzing with new exams, new rivalries. Yuichi lingered in Class C, a ghost among students, his schemes reduced to whispers, his name a cautionary tale. Ayanokoji watched from Class D, his eyes unchanged, his plans unfolding without a hitch. Horikita rose, Kei obeyed, Kushida smiled, and Yuichi served, his every move scripted by the White Room's air. Yuichi stared at the Tokyo skyline from his dorm window, the city's lights a mockery of his ambition. He regretted coming to Anza's, regretted believing he could outplay a monster who felt nothing. The Tomodachi Game had been his creation, But Ayanokoji's game was eternal, its stakes not trust, but survival. Yuichi was alive, but he wasn't free, his strings held by a puppeteer who never faltered, and as the stars burned above, Yuuichi Katagiri vowed not to win, but to endure, to find a crack in Ayanokoji's fortress, to reclaim the game or die trying.